I have insurance, and so I don't need to focus on anything else other than just my physical well-being, because a bike is completely replaceable. And the fact that you have insurance and that you're protected and you're covered, all you need to do is focus on yourself and getting yourself better. Like, I'm going to try and I'm going to take risks and I'm going to take chances, because why else? Why would you not, right? I'm Alicia Speak. I'm 37. I'm a full-time lawyer, but I'm also a cyclist for Cycle Team London.
Full way with names. Why don't we get you all to introduce yourselves, starting with you, Isabel.
So I'm Isabella, and I ride for a club team called Illy Bikes in Belgium, and I'm based there throughout the season in Zottegem.
Because of the Dave Rayner Fund?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the important bit.
That is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm George Jarry. I've been based in Spain for the last 4 seasons, supported by the Dave Rayner Fund. And thanks to them, I've been able to race full-time in Spain.
My name's Tim Harris. I was a teammate and a really good friend of Dave.
I'm Nigel Bishop. I was also a GB teammate of Dave's, and I'm a committee member on the Rayner Fund.
My name's Joscelin Ryan. I'm a committee member of the Dave Rayner Fund. I'm also the rider liaison.
And I know Joss best because we work on the Tour of Britain together as well.
Yes, we do.
Bump into each other in many places. But Tim, I'm going to come to you first. Tell us about Dave himself, because a lot of us know the name of the fund, but we might not know exactly who Dave was and what happened to him that prompted the fund to be launched in the first place.
Well, Dave was a fantastic rider. I always remember the first time I came across him. He was tall and thin, and he was just an unbelievable climber. And he'd be racing in the same team as Mario Cipollini in Italy. And at the time, I was part of the ANC team. And there was a team called Interrent, which was part of the ANC team. And Tony Capper got him to come to race on that team. And he was just a fantastic guy. Really, really good rider, good climber. And a fantastic teammate. So it was, Dave was a special guy.
Nigel, he had talent, undeniably. I mean, like you say, rubbing shoulders with the likes of Cipollini. We know what he went on to do. I'm sure Dave would have, made a success of the sport as well. But his life was cut short in 1994 in a fairly horrible situation on a night out.
Yes, and a lot of the Yorkshire road riders used to have a night out called the Roadman's Review, which was a celebration of the year's cycling exploits. And it culminated with them going on afterwards to a nightclub in Bradford where he was assaulted and unfortunately died of his injuries. So,
which must have been devastating for all of his friends, devastating for the cycling scene. And we see, even now, I'm afraid, it's sad to say that when some of those big figures in the local scenes lose their lives, on the bike especially, it shocks everybody who rides a bike with them, or shocks everybody who knows them especially.
we're devastated because it was such an innocuous event. You go out on an evening to enjoy a night out in celebration of what's been achieved over the year, and you expect to, wake up in your bed in the morning, don't you? You don't expect something like that to happen. So everybody who was there that night and everybody who was involved in the sport were just dumbfounded, really. It was catastrophic. He was such a fantastic guy and such a talent. I mean, there was very few riders of his talent and his ability, and if he was one of today's riders, he would definitely be one of the leading lights in the professional scene and be up there in races like the Tour de France, without a doubt.
Yeah. Tim, I'd imagine the idea came about pretty quick to honour Dave's memory by setting up the fund and helping riders who had the talent he was blessed with.
Well, the thing is, a lot of people ask me now who was Dave, and I remember when I was a junior, I used to do the Peter Buckley series, and finally we just went off, we did the races, and it was Peter Buckley series, but I never really gave a second thought who Peter Buckley was. So it was only later that you knew he was also a guy that died, and they set up the race series in his name. So the idea was to really, in a very, very small way, just to get some money in, send off a few guys or girls to Europe to do what Dave did, which was to go to Italy or any country really, and just to help, a couple of people, a couple of riders really, and the whole thing went from there, and it just got bigger, and it was like a snowball effect, because we had like the first funded rider was David Miller, who went on obviously to do what he did. So. And then with the dinner in Leeds and getting the money, and more riders came through. So it's just got bigger and bigger until it's now got this charity status now.
Yeah, congratulations on that. I mean, Joss, it's been going for 25 years now, and Tim mentioned David Miller there, but plenty of other really big names have come through the ranks. I think Adam Blythe has just turned up. He's one of them.
No, that's a myth. Fake news.
Is that a myth? Is it a myth?
It is.
Oh, beg your pardon. Well, knowing Adam, he probably showed up at the house anyway.
Yes, that's exactly why.
That's the truth. Because
Yeah.
I mean, I've mentioned the house here. You had this house in Belgium, which has been a place for young talent to come through and come out of, and and get stuck into the world of pro cycling. But tell us about some of the genuine names, not the myths. Then.
Okay, the genuine names. Well, David Miller has been mentioned already. Going back to the old days, Charlie Wegelius, Jamie Burrow, Tom Southam, Dan Martin, Adam Yates.
Adam Yates, not Blythe, I beg your pardon. That's what
Adam Yates.
Another Adam.
Dan McClay.
Dan McClay, Teo Geoghegan-Hart, Owen Dool,
James Shaw.
James Shaw, Chris Lawless. Oh, are the clues up there? Connor Dunn. Connor Dunn. Yes, can you think of any more? Anybody? Dan Martin, there he is.
I'd imagine you had to get a new bed for Connor Dunn, given that he's about.
Yeah, Dan McClay. We've had basically 34 riders have progressed to the level of World Tour or Pro Continental, so that's what you would call proper professionals.
So you guys at the end, George, Isabella, when the opportunity came around to be supported by the fund, that must have been a huge boost because of all the names who've benefited in the past.
Yeah, it was really good, and knowing that these pros have had the same support and been able to make it because of that, it really gives you a boost knowing that, okay, these people have been able to achieve this, so it gives me the best opportunity to be able to achieve what I want to.
And then do you realise that this involves a lot of really hard racing in Belgium in the winter?
Yeah.
Or the wind blowing off the North Sea. It toughens you up pretty quick, I'd imagine.
It definitely does, and even coming back from Belgium, I definitely don't really bat an eyelid when it's chucking it down, windy, rainy in the middle of winter, because I know that that's what you have to do, and that's what I want to do, even if it's not the most enjoyable thing at that time. It's definitely the best thing, best preparation for it.
George, you're slightly further along your journey with the fund compared to Isabella. How have things panned out for you? Because you've been racing at a pretty high level in Spain the past couple of years.
Yes, I've been in Spain for 4 seasons, and thanks to the Dave Rayner Fund, I could dedicate all my time to it. And the Dave Rayner Fund doesn't pretend to be a golden ticket to the professionals. It's very inspiring to see all these riders, but it's for riders who have already found a team and they've got an idea of what they're going to do. And the winter isn't supported, for example, so it's for riders who have proven that they're hardworking enough and they just need a bit of support to facilitate their year out there. And so for me, thanks to the Dave Rayner Fund, I could be in Spain without having to find a job, so I could be full-time, which gave me a chance in the races. And I got a lot out of the experience. You know, I learned a language, I got into coaching online, other riders. So yeah, for me, I've sort of come to the end of my journey as a cyclist, and first of all, on a personal note, I can come to events like this and be entirely at peace with having given it 100%. There's no doubt of if I could have trained hard enough, if I had a few more opportunities. Completely at peace with the sport. Cycling's not for everyone. 30 riders have made it to the World Tour or Pro Continental, but the Dave Rayner Fund has supported so many more. And yeah, so going forward for me, it's just been a great experience, and it's thanks entirely to them.
You definitely get that sense that there's like a strong sense of fraternity of riders like you, whether they go on to hit the highest highs or they decide they've tried their best and they're going to move on to something else. There's still that sense of being part of an important group who've been funded by the Dave Rayner Fund. You mentioned Teo there. I know he feels incredibly strongly about it and talks about it fairly regularly. Dave Miller, the same thing. And you must be proud to be part of that gang,
Yeah, I had
like.
contact with Teo this year. He was mentoring some of the riders, so there's a very strong link between riders who have made it to the World Tour and riders like me who were trying to get there. And so the Dave Rayner Fund's done everything to give me every opportunity, and I've taken it and got a lot out of the experience.
Tim, do you think the perception then is starting to change around the fund? I mean, we talked just before we came on stage about it. Some people down here think it's a bit of a northern thing, when in reality it's not. That's not the case these days.
No, well, it started off really because he was from Yorkshire and the people on the committee were from Yorkshire, so it was quite more, and there's a big cycling base in in Yorkshire, so it was, and the dinner was in Yorkshire, so it was sort of
The Tap de Dales was in Yorkshire.
But also with events like this, we're trying to promote it over the whole country more. And just the response we've had these last couple of days here has been absolutely amazing, to be honest, 10 times more than we could have really hoped for. And sort of showing, because a lot of people have just heard of the name, but they don't really know what it is. So like doing events like this, people get to know a little bit more about A, who Dave was, B, who the riders are, have been funded, and the whole idea of what we're trying to achieve, really.
Nigel, Joss, there must be some great stories over the years. Come on, there must be some larks that were had by some of the youngsters coming through the ranks. Don't climb up now. Come on. I bet there are loads. Come on, tell us.
There are, absolutely.
Come on, well, we're all
Say the one from yesterday.
We
had a good one yesterday. So we're on the stand yesterday, and this guy comes on, we're chatting away, and he says, "You don't recognise me, do you?" I says, "No." And I don't actually. What was his real name?
James Stewart.
James Stewart.
His name was called James Stewart. I just called him Little Jimmy. And he arrived, and he had a knee injury, and so we arrived at the house, and I go out, and I see this guy roller skating down the street. I says, "What are you doing?" He said, "Oh, I'm training." So I said, "Roller skates." And anyway, he had a bit of a word, shall we say. But he actually went on to be quite a good rider.
Yeah.
So,
But you're hands-on with the riders. You're there coaching them. You're seeing them transition from perhaps being wide-eyed and thinking, "What am I doing here?" to actually hardening them up in a way and becoming potential future champions. That must be satisfying to see. I'd imagine there must be great satisfaction, Nigel, from that.
Yeah.
There's enormous satisfaction seeing young riders progress. I mean, Tim and I, Isabel and George, we've all been through it. We've all started as schoolboys, as juniors, progressed to seniors. Our aspirations have been to be world champion and to ride the Tour de France, and not all of us get to do that. But to sit here and say that we can actually help riders follow their dreams, chase their dreams, with a realistic opportunity of doing it if they've got the talent and the dedication. And we see lots and lots of talented riders, but one of the biggest things, the biggest marker for most of them is, do they have the grit and determination? Because that's what it needs to survive over there.
Yeah. If you had to pick one, putting you on the spot, who would you pick out as being the most pleasing to see succeed?
Well, we talked about this yesterday, didn't we? And
I actually think Connor Dunn.
Yeah.
Because Connor Dunn was absolutely not a big talent. He was a good rider, but just like any other rider. But he had some really hard times when he was an amateur, and he went back to England for a few weeks because he really had some issues, and he was depressed with the whole thing. And we talked to him, and then he came back and gave it one last go, and he's ended up riding the Giro, the Vuelta, and being a really good pro, but without being a super talent. So for me, over all those years, Connor Dunn is probably one of the most satisfying, because he didn't arrive with a big talent, but he did everything he's done through hard work and dedication.
And a lovely guy to boot, I think it's fair to say.
Fantastic guy. And it was difficult for him because he always had issues with bikes, obviously, because he's so tall. So often teams couldn't get him bikes big enough. So he really persevered, and he's a good example to everybody that you can be a good pro bike rider without having a big engine, because a lot of the really top guys just have big engines. So they are physically better, but he wasn't really any better than anybody at all. But he's gone on to live his dream, really.
How about you, Joss? Because, I mean, look, there's the core of funded riders, but there's those other names that come and go. Adam Blythe, you mentioned. Is Gaviria a name who's passed through the doors in Belgium, that sort of thing?
Yes, he has.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Well,
Fernando Gaviria, for those who don't know him.
Fernando Gaviria and another Colombian guy stayed with us for 3 months, something like that. Two very different characters. Very interesting. Difficult for me. I couldn't really speak to them because I don't speak Spanish, so Tim was doing the interpreting all the time. Fernando was placed with you, really, because they wanted him to learn English.
Learn English,
yeah. And did he?
Well, he learned how to mow the grass. So he came back one day, and he was, like all sprinters, they're really, really special characters. They're not easy. They don't think like normal people.
Yeah.
And Fernando certainly didn't. So he didn't say much, but then one day we got quite a big lawn, And we came back home, and the lawn was completely mowed. And so it's a bit strange. So he just sat there watching the television. I go, "All right, Fernando, yeah, right, yeah." So, "Did you mow the lawn then?" He says, "Yeah." He said, "I'd never seen a lawnmower before, so I thought I'd give it a go."
Don't they have lawns
Just
in
ridiculous,
Colombia?
random stuff.
Yeah, never seen a lawnmower.
And he'd go out and be playing football in the garden the day before a big race and stuff. You just, really bizarre.
It's a controversial coaching method. It obviously paid dividends for Gaviria, and I'm sure, when he got the cyclamen jersey at the Giro, he was thinking about mowing your lawn as he took to the podium there. It's a fascinating story. It's a really important fund, and clearly it's great to see it doing well and inspiring young people like George and Isabella to go on to the highs of the likes of Gaviria and Adam Yates and everybody else. Please put your hands together for the work of the Dave Rayner Fund.
Thank
Okay.
Next up, we're going to
Thank
have Anna Henderson, who's going to be joined by Matt Stevens on stage. Don't go away, that's coming up very shortly. For now, thanks a lot.